go out. Thank you. Right. We continue with the debate and consideration. So far, it appears as if the interventions have been very brief and concise to the point, and I think that is the essence of it all, so that we'll have enough time for the Committee of Supply. So I'll call on the Honourable Member for Woolly East. Thank you. Oh, you're not ready? I can give the floor to somebody else. I have listed, Woolly East, okay.
It will not be like that. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I think the Ministry has adequately explained to us the economic situation, that the growth of the economy is slowing down from 6.5% to 4.0%. We are also informed that gross domestic product is also slowing down. Or it's growing by 4%, but instead of 6.5%, it's going down by 4.0% in 2019. Also, the local funds, Gambia local funds, we are told is not sufficient to cater for the recurrent expenditure. That, in fact, we are in deficit. And therefore, the conclusion of the minister was that we need to borrow to fill the gap. Honorable Speaker, in page 12 of the minister's statement, we are told that we will have less revenue and grants in 2020 compared to 2029. And by my own calculation, the difference will be about $1 billion. And on page 13, on the same report, the total expenditure and net lending shall be greater from $28 billion to $30 billion, which is about 4% of the bulk of that increment, which is due to debt interest payments. Now, we are also told that 40% of government's tax revenue in 2020, which will be about $4,648 million, shall be debt interest payment. Because last year, which is 2019, I believe, 26% or $2,702 million of tax revenues for 2019 has now increased to $4.64 billion for debt repayment. So, Honorable Speaker, this means that despite that we are receiving less revenues, we are still bent on borrowing more just to be able to spend more. And we said we are in a debt trap or in a debt distress. So if we want to reduce our debt, but yet still we are thinking of taking more debts, I'm not sure whether we are not defeating the policy. Because according to the minister, the solution is to borrow more money domestically than we do in 2019. And I believe the policy was to reduce domestic borrowing. But it looks like $3.9 billion will be borrowed to finance the deficit. My understanding is also that we are going to progressively reduce domestic borrowing with a view to lowering it to an acceptable level that will allow the commercial banks to have more savings to be able to give to investors to boost production, especially in the productive base. And if that is the reason, but we are taking more domestic debts this year, then I'm not sure whether we are progressing forward. I think we are, in fact, reversing. Yes. So if you go to the statement, Honorable Speaker, and I will quote that, for 2019, the projected budget support from the European Union, EU, and the World Bank, which comprises the bulk of our estimated support for this year, have not materialized as at end September. So we need explanation on that. What has actually happened, why that support has not been materialized? Is it that there are conditions that were attached? What have we not done to meet some of those conditions? Those are very important questions that we want answers for. And my fear has always been that we will have donor weariness, and therefore we cannot continue to depend on donor support. So instead of addressing the real problem of our economy, we keep on wanting to borrow more and more to meet our deficits. Honorable Speaker, I think that the re-export trade should be digitalized, because from our engagement with some of the partners, they think that it is going well, but that what is lacking is to ensure that we have a chip on these vehicles that are engaged in transporting goods to other countries. And that will increase our income on re-export trade, especially the foreign exchange dimension. Honorable Speaker, I'll be interested to know also what development policy, what is the target that we have realized? I'll be interested to know that, which has given rise to what you call slippages. The minister, like the member, my colleague has said, we need more explanation on those slippages. What are responsible for that? Honorable Speaker, legal aid agency have not been able to capture the allocation for legal aid agency, which have not been substantial over the years, and it has hampered their operations, as they said to us. So I was thinking that this time around, we'll be able to capture them, because if they are not properly handled, it means that they'll not be able to perform. And they are playing some role, an oversight role sort of, on the judiciary. So if they don't have vehicles and important things like that, they'll not be able to perform properly. Honorable Speaker, on taxation, gross taxation, we discussed here, the NGOs. It looks like they are the only ones who are complaining of gross taxation. And I could not capture it in the budget. Where in the budget do you have gross taxation? Because I have not seen it anywhere. When I checked the revenue side, I've seen all these taxes, but I've not seen anything like gross taxation, especially on page 3. Page 3 and page 5, nothing like gross taxation. I don't know where it is captured, because only the NGOs are complaining that they are being taxed on everything that they receive, including their salaries and allowances. And this has been a long-standing thing, which has been hampering their operations and affecting their target communities. Honorable Speaker, the TRRC has the dimension of reparations. And I have not captured anything on reparations. I believe that we need to create a budget line for reparations so that the international community takes us seriously, that we are really ready for giving reparations to our victims. Because without a budget line, I don't think anybody will take us seriously. So I seem to accept the minister's conclusion that for us to achieve and sustain microeconomic stability and the government's primary objective of reducing poverty and improving basic service delivery for all, we should be committed to fiscal discipline. But this budget that I am seeing, I have not seen that to be very well demonstrated, fiscal discipline. Because all these allowances that my colleagues are talking about do not seem to show that. Many ministries are putting a lot of allowances. Sometimes even the allowances seem to be more than the salaries. That's kind of funny. So in my view, Honorable Speaker, if we really want this budget to serve as a useful tool to achieve what the minister says, macroeconomic stability, we should utilize Section 27 of the Public Finance Act to appoint temporarily a team of staff, technical staff, like it is said, to be able to look into some of these things. Maybe this year, maybe we may be late, but next year, we should be able to put that into operation. So I thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Member for Sabasanya.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Yes. Madam Speaker, as we know that we need to reduce the deficit, my intervention will just go to certain key areas where I will make some kind of proposal in relation to the draft estimate. As I said, we need to reduce the deficit so that we can also reduce the interest payment or the interest rate on the loans and make savings in the productive sector of the economy. Now, when I look at the budget, I observe that the allocation for vehicles, for me, is too much because 150 million is earmarked for vehicles, purchasing of vehicles. And I want to propose that maybe for that budget line, we downsize it to $100 million. I have a lot of issues along various ministries, but I will just give out key areas. When we come to the committee of the whole House, I will come up with those suggestions. But for the purchase of vehicles, for me, 150 million is too much. Looking at the deficit of the budget, looking at the level of our economy. We need to, as he said, start the fiscal discipline from our own selves. Going through the budget as well, I also look at the travel votes. A sum of 300 million is captured or earmarked for that vote line or vote. And I want to suggest that 200 million is really enough for that line. If you go to the centralized service, Madam Speaker, 500 million is budgeted there, which can be reduced to 300 million. For subvention to other institutions, I don't know which institutions are targeted here, but it is not clear to me. I want the minister to help us, because if the institutions were mentioned, you would know which one deserves what. But at this point, I cannot, because it is not mentioned there. Madam Speaker, if you go to the National Audit Office, I have a concern, because there are a lot of new allowances created which were not there in the past 2 years, and they really attract a lot of revenues, a lot of funds. And for me, I believe these are some of the things that why our budget is in deficit. It is really inflating the budget. So I think by looking at our economy, we should also sacrifice some of our personal emoluments that will really help this country and the people of the Gambia. So, Madam Speaker, for the National Audit Office, when we go to the Committee of the Whole House, I have a lot of suggestions that I would like us to consider. Food and food services, comparing the last year with this year, there also I see 232 million, which is about 21%. And I think, Madam Speaker, we need to know also what are these food and food services and why they are there for. I really don't understand that very well, and I want to get some clarification from the ministry. Now, anything that I mentioned, and we are able to get or acquire some kind of savings, I want to implore the House to look at the productive sector of the economy, and we increase some of the budget lines there. I will make some suggestions to some of the ministries that I really feel should be looked at. For example, works. Madam Speaker, we are all complaining of our bad roads in the country, and it is through this ministry that we should have these roads fixed. We cannot just depend on external funding for our infrastructure. Looking at their development budget, I see some increment, but that doesn't enough, because since the inception of this government, if you go to the local, the rural Gambia, only few areas are considered, and people are really complaining. And Madam Speaker, we are all politicians. If you don't deliver, especially in infrastructure, we cannot convince our people. That is a concern. Therefore, the Ministry of Works should really be resourced so that we can monitor them, follow them to see our roads fixed. Madam Speaker, youth transport, many speakers have said it here, is another key area. And I think we should really look into that, and there are some areas where we can really reduce to support those key ministries. I want to suggest the foreign affairs. We still need to downsize. They really reduced the budget compared to last year, but then there is still more need to be done in that ministry. Because if you look at their allowances, what they get as PEs is really big. It's a high chunk of money. So being the case, for the interest of the Gambia, I think we need to downsize the embassies or the missions to save money and fix our deficit budget. Agriculture, many people have said it, but for me, I have a different view. And I will make a suggestion because over the years, in fact, this year their budget is reduced. Many people have said it. But for me, it's fair because if you are giving something and we don't see any dividend, we don't see any, you don't convince people in terms of performance, actually it will be difficult to give you extra money. And what I see, I'm not really convinced with agriculture. In fact, I want to suggest that the entire management of that ministry be changed to have new people where we can have, a change. Yeah, that is my suggestion because over the years, they have a lot of projects, a lot of things have been, given to that sector, but still Gambians are complaining of agricultural productivity. Actually, that is my own opinion, but we need to look at this thing closely and very seriously because we all believe that agriculture is one of the key areas that is engineering the economy of this country. As a result, we should not just be talking about it and decision is not taken. Agriculture, for me, I believe we need to take serious decision in that sector. Because I have the belief that if agriculture is seriously handled, we will not talk about what we are talking today. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I in fact not intended to speak here. We met yesterday and day before yesterday during our committee sessions. We have a lot of issues and the reports are coming. I have also other personal observations regarding the budget. I want to reserve myself until the committee of the whole house when I will come with other details. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable Member for Banjul South. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister for Finance, for laying this budget as directed by the Constitution. First of all, Madam Speaker, I will take us to last year's budget because there are major concerns in this budget. So before I draw our attention to the concerns, I will take us to what this Honorable Minister told us last year in this August House. And with your permission, Madam Speaker, I will quote. On the 14th of December, the Honorable Speaker said that as we bid farewell to the 2018 fiscal year, fiscal consolidation continued to be our main objective in order to restore macroeconomic stability. Madam Speaker, he said the government of the Gambia, with the assistance of the development partners, launched a new national development plan, 2018 to 2021. And this was followed by a successful international donor conference, Madam Speaker, held in Brussels, which led to 1.7 billion pledged by these development partners for the successful implementation of the National Development Plan. Madam Speaker, honorable colleagues, Madam Speaker, one of the primary purposes of budgeting is to provide control over the revenues and expenditures of a government. The budget is thus a very important part of maintaining control of government finances and are a means of achieving the financial reporting objectives of accountability. Madam Speaker, out of those pledges, I want the Honorable Minister to tell us how much was received, and if nothing was received, why? Madam Speaker, I do not want to assume that it is because of fiscal indiscipline that was why we've not received any of those funds. Because we all know, Madam Speaker, the Honorable Minister is very competent and he's very capable. Why are we failing, Madam Speaker, in our financial management? That is a major concern, Madam Speaker. And also, Madam Speaker, I would like to look, I don't want to take much time of this August Assembly because, like you said, we have Friday where we can share all this and distribute the budget accordingly. But before that, Madam Speaker, we have to be well prepared. We need to know where to cut and where to paste, Madam Speaker, because this budget must reflect the reality on the ground. Madam Speaker, we are a poor country. What I have seen being spent, I would call unnecessary. Madam Speaker, first of all, before I go to our debt analysis, I will go to the different ministries, Madam Speaker. For example, Ministry of Health. We all want a good health, Madam Speaker, for everybody, especially for the young and for the women. Madam Speaker, looking at the budget of the Ministry of Health, it is sad to say that, yes, we have achieved double digits, 11.4%, but I will not give them an applaud, Madam Speaker, because from that 11.4%, 97% goes to recurring expenses. Only 2.8% goes to development. Madam Speaker, as a developing nation, we should focus more on what develops our country. What develops our country other than better health for our children and the people of this country? Madam Speaker, if we look at the OC budget line under the Ministry of Health, my honorable colleague from Latikunda Sabije mentioned, Madam Speaker, for travel expenses, the health department was given 4 million. They spent 8.6 million, which is 223%. Madam Speaker, I don't even want to laugh because it is not a laughing matter. And they allocated them 120 million for drugs, dressing, and medical supplies. They only spent 36. The reason they gave us was because they said there was not sufficient fund to be disbursed. Madam Speaker, there is no fund to be disbursed for drugs, dressing, and medical supplies, but there are funds to be disbursed for travel expenses. Is it for our pockets or is it for the needs of this country, Madam Speaker? I've heard people praising the Minister of Health that he travels economy. Madam Speaker, he can travel by cart for all we care, as long as our citizens are well taken care of when they are in need. Madam Speaker, we've seen how many women dying. In September alone, I counted over 8 women in Banjul died of childbirth, Madam Speaker, and this is not an exaggeration. This is the number that I am aware of. I'm not talking about other hospitals. I'm talking about the vicinity that I know. Let alone, we are 58 in number. If we all bring our numbers out, it will count to over hundreds, Madam Speaker. And we are thinking of travel expenses. Yes, the amount is only 8.8 million. But 8.8 million in our hospitals will take us a long way, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, for consultancy, 48 million was approved, and they managed to disburse 94%. Yet, in dressings, drugs, and medical supplies, only 30%. Madam Speaker, and they said other recurring charges. They said the budget has been disbursed. Electricity, I'm still under the Ministry of Health, had gone up significantly, Madam Speaker. And if I say significant, I mean significant. 1,599%. Is that not significant? That is more than significant. Madam Speaker, that is from 1.5 million to 25 million. Madam Speaker, yes, they said they had to settle areas of NAWEC. Is NAWEC more important than the health of our children? Madam Speaker, NAWEC is a state-owned enterprise. They should subsidize the energy supply of our hospitals to enable our children and our women to live. Madam Speaker, if we have that amount to give to NAWEC, I think we should have that amount for medical supplies. Our priorities need to be looked at. Madam Speaker, our citizens are important. We need to wake up and take care of them. Madam Speaker, that is very important. Madam Speaker, I think I will leave that of health for Friday. Madam Speaker, I will go to the office of the President, which is the highest office, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the office of the President has witnessed an increment in their budget from 640 to 701. Madam Speaker, is the President not our servant? We elected the President, Madam Speaker, to serve us. If there is need, Madam Speaker, he needs to cut down to accommodate others, Madam Speaker. That is what good leaders do. Madam Speaker, the Office of the President have proposed in their manpower budget to increase the number of advisors. Madam Speaker, we have seen ministries. I would think, if I may be brought to line, that the ministers should be the advisors of the President. The permanent secretaries are the technicians. They can do the technical work. The minister should be the advisors. Madam Speaker, if the President is telling us that he needs more advisors, is he indicating that he doesn't need the ministers anymore? We need to look at that, Madam Speaker. The ministers need their jobs, and we need them too, but I don't think we need all these advisors, Madam Speaker. I think we should remove all that from the budget. Madam Speaker, foreign affairs. Madam Speaker, Gambia is a small country with less than 2 million people. We have more embassies than we can record in even the biggest countries in this world. Madam Speaker, and I saw the embassies increased in the last 2 years. Is it a matter of reward that we're creating these embassies? Madam Speaker, when I said that party leaders shouldn't sit at the cabinet, that was my concern. Party leaders have political interest. They would obviously want to reward their people. And I think that was the reason why these embassies were created unnecessarily, to reward their people and to give them something that otherwise they wouldn't have afforded in their lives, Madam Speaker. I am sorry to say. We need to reduce the embassies, Madam Speaker. We have an embassy in Brussels. We have an embassy in France, in Geneva, in Spain. Madam Speaker, even in those richest countries, if they have embassies at Brussels, which is the capital of Europe, do we need all these embassies in every country? Madam Speaker, meanwhile, our children are sitting on the floors in our schools. They are given books every 5 years. They are not given proper teachers. Madam Speaker, you go to their toilets, it is appalling. We would never send our children to those schools. Madam Speaker, let us be honest and fair to ourselves. We should try and protect the children of this country. If we don't take care of them, we are killing our nation, Madam Speaker. Those are the future of this country. Madam Speaker, I go to justice. Madam Speaker, it was this August Assembly that approved the National Human Rights Commission Madam Speaker, that should be an independent body because we depend on them to act fairly and justly when it comes to human rights issues. Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Justice is under the executive branch. And this commission should not be at the purview of the Ministry of Justice, Madam Speaker. We should ensure that this is removed as part of obeying of the rules of law and the respect of human rights, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I mentioned on my social media platform about an imam being paid. I receive insults, Madam Speaker, but do I care? What can insults do to me? Nothing. It will not reduce me to anything. I am serving my people and I serve the community, Madam Speaker. I think if even one imam is on the payroll of the government, all imams must be on the payroll of the government, and all priests or other religious leaders must also be. Madam Speaker, we should stand and remove that. And then I would go further and say, yes, I am a practicing Muslim. They can call me a kafir or whatever they wish, but I will speak my mind. With this idea of having these mosques in our public places, Madam Speaker, we should revisit them. We can have prayer places, Madam Speaker, for every Gambian who would wish to pray. I might want to pray, I might not want to. I might be a Christian, want to pray in my own quiet moment, go to the prayer room. I might be a Muslim, go to the prayer room. But we shouldn't have mosques in all these places, Madam Speaker. Let them call me whatever they want. I serve my community, not a selected few, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, also, looking at the budget of the Interior and the Defense, Madam Speaker, are we working to feed the army that is of no relevance to this country, Madam Speaker, than educate our young, the future of this country, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, at the office of the President, the state guards alone is 20 million to feed them. Madam Speaker, are they eating human beings or what? We should look at that and reduce it, Madam Speaker. I think the President should have sympathy for the people who voted for him, Madam Speaker, and allocate those monies to youth and sports. Madam Speaker, sports now is taken as a business. If you don't invest on it, Madam Speaker, you will never see the yield. Madam Speaker, the amount allocated to youth and sports is appalling. It is sickening, I would say. Madam Speaker, it is sad to say that we have forgotten our youths. Every country now is promoting sports. Madam Speaker, we've seen the lady that went to the Olympics. Nobody cares about her. We should promote her. The first Gambian to win a medal at an Olympics. Nothing has been given to her. Madam Speaker, we are receiving all the benefits in this world, and we are here to serve the people. Recently, we've been given some piece of land. I might be criticized to mention. Yes, we bought it. It was rightly done. We applied for it. Fine. But then as well, Madam Speaker, we should fight for the low-income earners to be allocated pieces of land, Madam Speaker. If they can't build it, they would have their children. At least that would be security for them. Madam Speaker, I think we should start advocating for that to be done. Madam Speaker, we've seen the private sector trying to at least build homes for people, and that needs to be applauded. Madam Speaker, we've seen the estates like the Dalabas. If it wasn't for some people like the Tafts, some people would never even have thought of owning a home. We should compliment them. Try and make things cheaper for them so that they can do what they can do better, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me go to agriculture. Madam Speaker, let us not be fooled by the amount given to agriculture. Again, it is only recurring expenses. Nothing on development, Madam Speaker, not much. Gambia, like I always say, we have the river run right across the country. Why should we depend on 3 months of rainfall, Madam Speaker? Water shouldn't be a problem. Not at all in this country, especially when it comes to agriculture. But Madam Speaker, we've left it at the mercy of 2 or 3 months of rain. And if the rain doesn't come, we are doomed. We've just had the Honorable Minister, I think, said because of the, is it because of the poor rains? I think he mentioned because of the poor rains. Why should we depend on the rain? Let us invest more on irrigation so that our poor farmers can have a year-round agriculture and feed us. If we are well fed, we will have better health, Madam Speaker, and that way our children can perform more in school. Madam Speaker, I will not even go to education because I will leave that for Friday. We have signed protocols that we need to adhere to. And if we are telling ourselves that there is no money to ensure that we fulfill our international obligations, yet any convention that we are called, we will never miss. Madam Speaker, our priorities must be checked. Madam Speaker, environment is also a cause for concern. Madam Speaker, we know that there is climate change. We've all seen the change pattern in our climate. The rains that used to start in June, July, and August, now they don't come until September. What are we doing about it? Can we not task ourselves to at least plant trees, a certain number of trees every year? Can we not try to improve on our environment, invest on our environment, try to give it an uplift, invest on it? It is something that we must not underestimate. It will make a big difference, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, when we go to Women Affairs, we should applaud the government for creating a separate Ministry of Women Affairs. Creating is one thing, but empowering is something else. Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Women Affairs is a new ministry. It was under the Office of the Vice President. The Office of the Vice President has seen an increment in their budget. I would have thought that it would have seen a reduction because the Women Affairs has been taken from it, and that allocation moved to the Women Affairs to further strengthen that department. Madam Speaker, I will leave the specifics for Friday so that we will know where to cut and again where to move it. But like I said, the health, agriculture, education, youth and sports are of significance, Madam Speaker. And we also need, like my honorable colleagues have already mentioned, to look at the new benefit allocations, the new appointments in the budget, and make sure that nothing of those are approved, because we are already being swollen by debt that is not sustainable. And Madam Speaker, I will not sit and not mention the aspect of expenditure in this budget. It seems that most of it is lumped on the current expenditure, which surprisingly saw a reduction of 10%. That is something I cannot understand. If everything is lumped, yet 10% reduction, is there not a catch somewhere? And then again, personal expenditure increased by 6.4%. That 6.4% must not be included. I think those are the new positions and the new benefits, and I think they must all go in order for us to bridge the deficit gap. That is what we need to do. We've been consistently going under a deficit budget. Is that how a country wants to go? I am not saying that we must have a balanced budget because I think that is impossible. But then we should work towards reducing the deficit, not towards increasing it year in, year out. Budget deficit was widened in 2020 by 5.6% compared to 4.17%. And this again runs counter to the minister's budget statement last year when he said we are going to work on reducing it. So I am asking the minister, why would he come and tell us something and then go out there and do something? We appreciate that he's trying, but try harder to reduce it. The sustainability of the budget, Madam Speaker, again, it is a cause for concern. The best way I think that I can analyze the budget is as a percentage of the GDP. And both total revenue and grants, like my previous honorable colleagues have said, both declined compared to 2019. And yet, our expenditure increased. I'm like, one would expect that inflows from the 1.7 million, as I said, would have come. But then again, they never came. And yet, we are still banking our hopes on donors, on grants. Should we not be realistic? I think we should look more on tax and non-tax, even though the non-tax income is insignificant. It grew drastically. So why don't we look into tapping at that more to ensure that we work more on that and make more benefit on that? Because those are the only secured income guaranteed that we have. So why don't we work on them? Budget support is lower than expected. Is it because, again, of fiscal indiscipline? I think before we bank on budget support, let us clean up our house. Make sure we adhere to the commitments. Make sure we are working towards fulfilling conditions precedent to draw down. If I run my home with $1, go to the market with $1 and expect to come home with goods worth $10, is that realistic? That would only encourage corruption and incompetence. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Member for Combo East.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I wish to take this opportunity to thank all members who spoke before me. And I believe I'll be very brief in my submission because a lot has been said. Notwithstanding, Honorable Speaker, the current economic situation in the Gambia seems to be in limbo, citing the fact that there should be economic classification based on the nature of the government expenditure. Honorable Speaker, the total expenditure, which is expected to be 24 billion. Currently, the debt service, Honorable Speaker, projected to 4.6 billion, and the capital expenditure is 2.5 billion. The development expenditure is 13.9, and the GLF component is 2.4. Really, there should be a fiscal discipline in this country. Honorable Speaker, the government should invest more on productive sector in order to have a sustainable macroeconomic sustainability in this country. Honorable Speaker, considering the fact that a lot have been said with regards to the allowances, if you go to the Ministry of Defense, particularly the transport allowances, from 2019, it was 18 million, and 2020, 116 million. There's quite significant differences. I think the minister would be definitely in position to explain the reason why. Honorable Speaker, it is quite amazing for one to actually understand that the budget allocations it is quite incredible for one to believe. I believe the government should encourage the public-private partnership in order to become economic viable. Considering the fact that the Ministry of Health, there are a lot of reductions on certain program lines, I think the ministry would be in a better position to explain the reason why. Because I understand that the National Pharmaceutical Services, from 2019, 122 million to 105, there is a significant reduction. I think the ministry would be in a better position to explain the reason why. Notwithstanding, Honorable Speaker, absolutely a lot have been said, but no need to repeat all those things that have been said here, and I believe we're going to repeat each other here. But really, it's a cause for concern. That's why I said there should be a fiscal discipline in terms of economic and in terms of this budget. So I believe more has been done, but more needs to be done. And on that note, I thank you all, and I believe more vibrant economic approach needs to be done in our financial system. Thank you very much.
Honorable Member for Janjambure.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the floor. Madam Speaker, when I received my copy of this estimate, I was saddened. Saddened because I have seen certain things in this estimate that makes me feel that this country is not anymore taking agriculture seriously. A lot had been said, and the group met yesterday, and we'll do a presentation. But seeing certain ministries giving certain amounts of money make me feel that whether we are trying to develop a military state, defense and interior, even where the security sector review has not even gone halfway, they are giving
I want to ask that, please, Ma. Was a motion moved to sit beyond 1 p.m.? That's what I want to ask. Oh, my God. I see.
We can sit till 6 o'clock. Then after 6 o'clock, then we can move.
Okay. As I was saying,
even where the security sector review has not gone even halfway, I don't think, because we are not even hearing about it again. They are attracting a lot of our national cake. I was at one time thinking probably this amount was given to them because they are anticipating, as they said, to go into agriculture. But even where that is the case, I have a feeling that they were created because of an act of National Assembly, and that act must be reviewed before they can go into farming. And if all these things are not done yet, both the Interior Ministry and the Defense are giving twice or 2.5 times more than agriculture. Thus, it's not telling well. And if it is approved by this House, I don't know how our people will be seeing us. Because that is, when we talk about a national budget, it should reflect, as one of my colleagues said, what avails on the ground. Madam Speaker, that takes me to the next ministry, that is Foreign Affairs. There was a study that was conducted that recommended that out of the 29 embassies, it should be reduced to 13. Can the minister, if he is not aware of this study, can he please ask? Probably we need to know where that report is and what had been done with that report. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, the centralized services, I think it has become a concern for every member of parliament here. And since last year, everybody was saying, please unpack this centralized budget services so that we know what amounts belong to which ministry. And to date, we haven't received that breakdown. Can you please break that down so that the centralized services, so that every ministry would know how much they have and what they want to do with it. My other points, Madam Speaker, were already highlighted by previous speakers. So, but I would want to know the reasons why defense, foreign affairs, and interior are giving more money from our national cake than Ministry of Agriculture, on which more than half of the Gambian population depends on. And I don't think this National Assembly here would want to see something like this happening, because then when we go back to our electorates, we don't know what to tell them. That we gave defense over $1 billion and agriculture 300 million. So on that note, Madam Speaker, I take my seat.